Blog Talk Radio.
Best-selling and award-winning author of true crime and crime fiction, Yvonne Mason is back with a brand new book, The Pink Canary, a book that delves into the life of a drag queen and a marvelous whodunit. You can find this and all of Yvonne's other works on Amazon.com or find Yvonne Mason on Facebook and Twitter.
You're gonna kill me.
Buy your copy of Pink Canary now.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that was a shameless piece of promotion. We have started our new month and a new year. We are working on our second year of this show. I am so excited. That was an ad by my friend Chris Dunham for the Pink Canary. And if you love all things Key West, if you love all things drag queen, if you love all things funny and suspenseful, then you need to read The Pink Canary because it is fall down funny. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Barnes & Noble, both in book form and ebook. So go and get it and read it and be prepared to laugh till your sides hurt. I don't know what has happened with this show. It has just taken on its own life form. I said that at the first anniversary, I wanted 25,000 listeners just on the show because I set goals for myself. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have surpassed that. We are looking at the north side of 30,000 viewers on this show. We have reached 28,988 listeners just on this show, just on Blog Talk. When you add that to all the podcasts that we put this show up on after the show goes into archives, we are looking at the north side of 40,000 listeners for this show. And it is because of you, ladies and gentlemen, as listeners, and because of guests like my guest tonight, author Wanda Luthman, that we are successful. Wanda's been on this show before. She didn't know she was going to be on the show this soon, and she thought she was just going to be on the show in November. I had a brain cramp, forgot to put her in November, so we were flipping around trying to change the dates, and then I saw, hey, stupid, you had her on for November 3rd, which is also my wedding anniversary, and so we just had a big laugh about my own stupidity, but then I can do that because I've reached 66 years old, so I can make mistakes like that as long as I get my guest on the show. But she was a good sport through it all. She was excited because she was on tonight because we have a lot to talk about and things to bring to the forefront. She is a children's author. She has a Master of Arts in both mental health counseling and the guidance counseling from the Rollins College, located in beautiful Winter Park, Florida. I've been to Winter Park. It is a beautiful, beautiful city. She worked at a local community mental health center for 10 years before she transferring to the public school system as a guidance counselor. Wanda worked at a high school for the past 18 years. She's also been an adjunct professor at the local community college and worked with teens who had lost a loved one through hospice. Wanda's always loved reading and writing and has written many books and poems as a child growing up in, of all places, Missouri. She presently lives in Brevard County, Florida, with her husband of 21 years and her 2 dogs, and her daughter, who is like the little bird, has left the nest. She was away at college. And this is what Wanda says. I want to inspire young children to be the best people they can be. If I can capture children's imaginations and entertain them, then the underlying positive character I can't even talk anymore, Wanda. Underlying positive character message will come through in each of my books. And I'm going to tell you, Wanda's children's books not only entertain, they have beautiful illustrations. They also teach life's lessons, and we're going to talk about some of those tonight. And Wanda, how in the world did you go from college to community health to public school to adjunct professor to working with teens who lost loved ones through hospice? How did you make that circle and then write books on top of it?
Well, that's a good question. When I went to college, I, was initially attracted to psychology And, you have to do some internships. And I did one with a girls club. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but it was a summer program for girls and, kind of low income, so it gave them some enriching experiences in the summer. And I absolutely loved it. The kids were just so great and easy to connect to and fun, and I enjoyed making a difference in their lives. And so that was one experience I had in college. And the other one, I worked at a community mental health center working with people who have a diagnosis like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. And so, and I actually, enjoyed that as well, even though if you haven't worked with people who have disorders, you may not think that would be an enjoyable thing, but I enjoyed helping them too. So then when I graduated and I was looking for a job, I was actually in Missouri, and my parents lived here in Florida, and I came down here to interview and got a job at the community mental health center because of my background working with people with severe mental illness. So I started doing that, and then once I got started, I went back to college for my master's, and then a friend of mine was like, hey, I teach at the community college. Do you want to, do that too? And that was like a side job. And so I said, sure, I'll teach, community college. So I did that. And I can't remember how many years, maybe like 10 or so. And when that opportunity ended, another friend of mine through the mental health center was working up in Titusville at the hospice up there, and she asked if I wanted to come work with teens there. And so that's how I got involved in that. And it was kind of interesting because even though I was a trained mental health counselor, I really hadn't dealt with grief a lot in my with my clients and stuff. So this really exposed me to a whole new level of counseling. And I worked with teens, but occasionally I had to fill in for the woman who worked with the little children. And I thought, oh, my God, that's just going to really break my heart. And so I went and filled in, and, they had the little talking stick where they sent it around in a group, and the little kids would hold the group and say, my name's so-and-so, and so-and-so died. And, there'd be little 3-year-olds who would be sitting there saying their mommy had died. And, I just thought I wasn't going to get through that. It just broke my heart. But after working with them for a while, I just saw their resilience. Yes, it hurt, and yes, they were grieving, but they were resilient. And what's so interesting about counseling is how the counselor gets blessed, you're there to help other people, but in the process, you get blessed,
In so many ways.
In so many ways, yeah. Just really, just amazing. And so that's how all that piece happened. And then after I had my daughter, I decided I would like to have more of a schedule like her. And since my degree also included the whole guidance components, I was able to switch over to guidance counseling and got a job actually at the middle school, which I thought would be my favorite place because you do a lot more counseling at the middle school level, and that was indeed the age where I struggled the most. And I did. I loved working with those kids, but at the end of my very first year, the county decided ninth grade was going to move up to the high school. And so since I was the last one hired, I was going to be the first one to go. And the position came open at the high school, so I went ahead and moved on up to the high school. And, I love the high school, too. I love working with those high schoolers and helping them figure out what they want to be when they grow up and, get them into the college they want to go to and, whatnot. So that's how I wound up there. And then, go ahead.
And that brings me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but since we're talking about school, you're getting ready to go back to school after summer break. So that brings up some questions that parents and kids and even educators might want to think about. And one of those questions is, what happens if school starts, kids roll into the classrooms, and some things have happened over the summer? Maybe a new kid has moved into the neighborhood. Maybe one of the kids has had surgery or gotten sick, or something has happened that has changed their dynamic. So their friends are a little bit hesitant, even a death of a parent or a sibling. So their friends are hesitant to talk to them because, number one, they don't know what to say. And number two, they don't want to hurt their friend, so they sort of avoid that friend, and that friend becomes even more isolated than they were before school started. How do you combat that?
Well, that's a very good question, Yvonne, because I can't tell you how many kids that is the situation for them. I mean, myself, I only do one grade level, and I have registered, 10, 15 new kids just in my grade level, and then all the other grade levels. So you think there's that many new kids, alone coming to school. And some are, excited about coming to a new school. They're looking forward to it. They're looking forward to a fresh start, that kind of thing. But a lot of them are not looking forward to it. They didn't want to move. It was against their will. They've left some really good friends. They don't want to be there. And so that they're kind of going through a whole grieving process. Or like you said, maybe they had a surgery, and lots of kids, I can't tell you how many, have, back surgeries, knee surgeries, all kinds of things. This young age, they're having those kinds of problems with their bodies, and they have to have surgery, and, really causing them to change their lifestyle. And they're kind of grieving. Maybe they can't play soccer anymore, those kinds of things. Or like you said, a parent may have passed and they're grieving that. And so here they are, coming to school, and nobody even knows really this baggage that these kids are dealing with. And I don't mean baggage in a negative way. I'm just saying they're having some heavy emotions that they're dealing with, and nobody even knows. And so really, if you have some teachers who do know what's going on, and they can kind of talk about it with the class, not to call the kid out and make them feel odd, but just talk about reaching across the aisle to the person sitting next to them and, saying hello to them and asking them genuinely how is their day and how are they doing. Just making those personal connections and making it safe in the class to do that and reach out to the kid who's, maybe not interacting, or the kid who nobody knows, or whatever. And then it sort of builds a sense of community in that classroom. And then the kids are more likely to reach out to one another and support each other, and then not leave that one child being lonely and alone.
Would it be conducive if on the very first day of school, when the kids are in that classroom and the teacher walks in, the teacher always says, "Hi, my name is Miss So-and-so," or "My name is Mr. So-and-so." If they took, and I know they're all strapped for time because we must teach to the test. We don't have time to be teachers and people. We're robots. But if they took 5 minutes and they said, "Okay, hi, my name is Miss So-and-so," and they went down to every desk and shook every child's hand, and then had every child say, "Hi, I am so-and-so," and when each child, and I know they got 20, maybe 30 kids in class, and each child shook each child's hand, you have that human contact, and you have to look them in the eye when you do that. That would automatically warm up that room by 20 degrees.
Absolutely. I know a lot of teachers stand at their door and greet students as they come in. Some even do go so far as shaking the student's hand. Like you said, it gives them that physical contact, and look them in the eye and say, "Welcome to my classroom." But I like that classroom to encourage each student to do that to each other. You know,
Yeah.
I really think that's important, that interconnectedness. And you're not just sitting in a desk listening to a teacher all day long. You're building a community there. I just think that's really important.
Well, and that child that, and we were talking about it before the show went live, that child that's had that traumatic experience, whatever reason, he's a new kid, he doesn't know transition, something happened in his life, maybe it was a death, maybe it was a divorce, maybe his father's abusive, maybe he's lost a sibling, maybe somebody has a terminal illness, maybe he or she has a terminal illness. So he's sitting over here in this corner alone, and he becomes forgotten, or else he starts acting out because there's so much internal pain that he can't talk about it or articulate it, and the doorway's never been opened for him to be able to say, hi, my name's Tommy, and I'm in a lot of pain right now, and this is why.
Right. I know, that's so true. I mean, you bring up a really good point that sometimes students, or really more often than not, students who are misbehaving or acting out, that it's not just that they feel like being a bad kid, quote, you know, they are really having some emotions that they can't even put words on. And maybe they're even having some, you know, thoughts and things that they haven't put words on. Nobody's asked them. Nobody even maybe in their home cares how they feel. And they have no person to talk to about it. And so we have to kind of get past just, oh, you're being bad and you're annoying me, I have to punish you, and sort of open up that window into that child's heart and soul and find out what's really going on with them, because you can change a life by doing that, you know.
Well, when you think about it, Wanda, think about this. We put up with behavior out of adults who are going through those very same scenarios that we just spoke about. We'll put up with that quote unquote bad behavior out of an adult because they can't articulate, but we won't allow it out of a child because they're just misbehaving. There's something wrong with that picture.
Right. Yeah, it's sort of like we've forgotten that kids can't articulate like adults. And so we kind of misread, you know, the signal and just label it as, you know, bad behavior or something.
And then we lose our future.
Really, there's something underneath every behavior, every single one, good, bad, and different.
Absolutely. I agree with that there's always that undercurrent that for whatever reason cannot bubble to the surface. Maybe the child is being abused at home, God forbid. Maybe his mother's being abused. There's something going on within the family unit that child, maybe he's been told he can't tell about family matters to strangers because it has to stay our dirty little secret or our little secret. Don't you tell anybody what's going on. But yet that child needs an outlet to be able to grow, to be well-rounded, to be productive, and to understand that the whole world is not like what's going on in his home.
Right, absolutely. And sometimes for those students, school is their safe place, you know. They may never share what's going on at home, but that's the place they feel the safest. And, you know, it is certain teachers that students feel comfortable sharing that kind of information with. And, I mean, time and time again, there are teachers in our school that, you know, those are the ones that come to guidance and say, hey, this student shared this with me. It's not every teacher. Not every teacher has that personality, but certain ones do, and the kids open up to them. And that's wonderful when they finally do. And, you know, or when they share it with the guidance counselor and, you know, we can help intervene in those situations as needed, you know. But, yeah.
And the child doesn't want to be removed from their home. That's their home. They love their parents and their siblings.
Mm-hmm.
They just want it fixed. They don't want to be torn apart. They just want understanding for one thing, and two, someone to help them fix what they can't fix. But we're too quick to yank them out of a house and say you can't be there. It's a bad environment. The child's already traumatized, and we're going to turn around and traumatize them more.
I know. Although what we've seen lately is I don't think there's enough foster care homes for students to be pulled from the home. So often they're not pulled, but the family is placed in counseling. So every member of that family is receiving counseling.
And that's the way it should be, as a unit, because you can't put a Band-Aid over a 10-inch cut that's 3 feet deep and expect it to get well. You have to go in there and cut away the infection, give it antibiotics, put stitches in it to help it heal, and to keep the cohesiveness of that family together, or it never heals. It becomes generational. Even if a child goes into a foster home, it's still generational because they haven't gotten to the core of the problem.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, I mean, intervention is so important. And like you said, it doesn't always mean taking the child out of the home. You know, it just means intervention and kind of what they call wraparound services, where they wrap around that whole family, because the people doing the abusing often have been abused themselves and no intervention ever occurred. And so it's sort of multi-generational on a lot of levels. And so you definitely need that professional intervention to help everybody heal and get better.
Yeah, because we need our children, because our children are our future. And if we keep if we keep being part of the problem, how in the world are we going to find a solution? And this is what bothers me is somehow or another, we as a society have gotten so screwed up about our children. We think if we throw things at them, like we throw foster care and we throw expensive things and we throw participation trophies and we throw this and we throw that at them, that they're going to be productive children. That's no guarantee. We have to teach them how to not only survive, but how to be productive, how to be winners. Yeah. And I don't mean winners like going out and get a trophy, but succeed within themselves, to be proud of who they are.
Right, to know their own self-worth, you know.
Yes.
Like you said, it doesn't mean winning a trophy, but know their own self-worth, and that it's not necessarily wrapped up in a trophy. You don't have to be the best and the brightest at everything you do. That's okay. That doesn't mean you are less than. You know, those are important things and important messages to get across to our kids.
And that little Johnny, who is an average student, who probably will not go to a well-named Harvard College, may go to a trade school and learn how to be a mechanic. But I can guarantee you he'll be the best darn mechanic out there, and I give him my card every day.
Right. Yeah, not everybody is interested in college even. You know, I mean, we may kind of the American dream or something to go to Harvard or whatever, but that's not everybody's dream.
No.
And that doesn't mean that their dream is less than the person that goes to Harvard. If they are fulfilling their passion and, you know, using their skills, that is what is fulfilling to people.
And we need people that have those skills. They are the backbone of this country.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Our country was founded, the men were smart, but most of them were farmers or businessmen. I don't think any of them had a college education.
Yeah, I don't think so. But they were smart. They were darn smart.
Yeah. They got our country for us. They put together the Constitution. I mean, so, ladies and gentlemen, what Wanda and I are trying to say is, whatever your child's dream is, I don't care if it's a garbage collector, because God knows we need them. If that is that child's dream, please encourage that child and whatever it is that child wants to be, because we need our children. Every child that we lose, ladies and gentlemen, whether it be to death, whether it be to gangs, whether it be to prison, whether it be to drugs, or anything else that is destructive, every child that we lose, we tear a piece of our fabric that we can never get back for our future. Is that not right, Wanda?
That is absolutely right. And, you know, too often these days, they are being drugged into an addiction of some sort through, like you said, gangs or whatever. But, I mean, you know, apparently there's this opioid addiction that's going on that is taking children's lives, and it is awful and sad. And yet we need to do everything we can to keep our kids safe and happy and healthy.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as they used to tell, when I was a teenager, and right before the news came on of the 3 television stations that were out there that we watched, it would be 11 o'clock. And on one station in particular, this small ad would come up, and it would go, "It is 11 o'clock p.m. Do you know where your children are?" That has stuck with me all of these years. Do we know where our children are? In this age of technology and cell phones, our kids can tell us they're anywhere.
Mm-hmm. That's
so
true.
Do we have the open lines of communications with our children so they feel free to tell us where they're going to be? So in case something happens and they wind up in a position they have trouble getting out of, if they feel free enough to call us up on the phone and say, "Come get me because I don't like what's happening."
Mhm. Yeah, that's important. That, you know, you can set some ground rules that I don't want you to be doing X, Y, and Z. But if you wind up in that situation, if you make a bad choice and you are there and you want me to come get you, I will come get you. No questions asked, no anything. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be consequences at some point, but not at the point at which you're calling me to come get you. You know,
exactly.
Your safety is way more important than, you know, right now, than a consequence, you know, to you or for you, you know.
So let's say little Johnny is going off with some friends, and little Johnny tells his mom, "Mom, we're going to the movies." And that was the intent. Johnny thought that he and his friends were going to the movies, but the friends had other idea. So they get in the car. Johnny thinks they're going to the movies, and they wind up someplace they're not supposed to be. And little Johnny calls his mom. At that point, Mom needs to keep her mouth shut and just say, "Yes, son, I'm on my way. I'll be right there." And Johnny's confident enough to know that Mom will pick him up and keep him safe. They may have a conversation later, and she has to understand that if Johnny says, "Mom, I really thought we were going to the movies," and she believes that.
Mhm. Right. Right. It is so important to have that line of communication and that relationship built with your child, so that they can reach out to you when they need you. That is number one why you're a parent, is to keep them safe. So you definitely want them to feel comfortable to reach out to you for that.
Now, that brings us to, now, I know, ladies and gentlemen, we've said all these things, and y'all are all waiting for us to talk about Wanda's wonderful, wonderful children's books, but there's a reason that we're leading into the conversation this way. Number one, school is fixing to start. In Georgia, it starts tomorrow. In Florida, it starts next week. In other parts of the country, it has already started. And we don't want to lose not one child to a drive-by shooting, being hit by a car going to school early in the morning, to the opioid crisis, to getting pulled into a gang, to being put somewhere where they don't want to be. We want our children safe because we want every child to live to fulfill their dream, whether it's garbage collector or Rhodes Scholar and everything in between, because we need them all. So we're leading up to this wonderful, wonderful book that Wanda just published that personally I didn't know it was out because I don't read children's books. I should have, because she's one of my guests and I love her. But it's called Gloria and the Unicorn. And the backstory to this book is so sweet before we talk about the book and the purpose of the things that can come out of the book, tell the folks about the backstory of the book, how you came about thinking about this story.
What inspired me to write the story?
Yes.
Okay, so I like to ride my bike, and so I live in Florida, and I was riding my bike in Orlando, and it was a bit of the countryside, the outskirts, and I rode past a little farm, and one singular miniature white horse was out in the pasture as I rode by, and he was just stunning. And he captured my imagination, and I thought, he's got a story in him, you know. And so, of course, I was continuing riding my bike, and thoughts were starting to form, and I thought, he needs to be a unicorn in my book. And so when I sat down to write, I really thought it was going to be more about the unicorn. But as it turns out, this little girl named Gloria showed up and in my mind. And I started fleshing out her story, and that's how it came to be. And then it became just a really neat relationship between her and the unicorn. So.
But Gloria has something unique about her that creates some self-esteem problems and experiences with her. Explain to our listening audience what was wrong with Gloria and how the unicorn, through his friendship, helped her with bullying, education, acceptance, and purpose.
Okay, so Gloria, she has a droopy face on one side, and the reason for that is because her mother was actually dying while she was giving birth to her, and so she had to be pulled from the womb, and it caused some damage on one side of her face. So that is what makes it difficult for her to go to school. On top of it, her dad decided not to keep her and gave her to a children's home. And while the children's home was a loving children's home, it's not like they were trying to do anything bad to her, but they decided to keep her out of school so that she would not be bullied. And Gloria wanted to learn to read more than anything in the world. So while she understood she wasn't supposed to go to school because people might, make fun of her and bully her, she really still wanted to be like everybody else and learn to read and go to school and do all the things that other. Did you want me to share more?
Well, because the unicorn and this relationship with the unicorn, and ladies and gentlemen, this takes us full circle back to children in school, because children can be bullies, and they bully children for two reasons. One, they've been bullied themselves, either at home or they're one of their parents or both of their parents were bullied, so they become bullies, and it becomes generational, so they bully. And the bully has acceptance issues and inner turmoil that they don't know how to articulate, so they take it out on other children. So you have the bullies who, for whatever reason, think their self-esteem is contingent on how mean they can be to someone else. Then you have the children like Gloria who are bullied, and like my little granddaughter that we lost, who are bullied because they have a physical defect, or they have a mental defect, or they have an illness, and they already, like little Gloria, have low self-esteem, so they're easy targets. There has to be a bridge there, and the unicorn, would it be safe to say, the unicorn was part of her education, which gave her acceptance of herself, which gave her a purpose in life. And would it be fair to say that's how we bridge that gap between the bullies and the bullied?
That's a really good point. I think lots of times the people doing the bullying, it's sort of like a power thing. They feel kind of powerless maybe in their own home or situation, and bullying somebody else gives them a sense of power. And so that's one piece of it, is to deal with their sense of powerlessness. But then also the victim, the one being bullied, also feels powerless. And to empower them will help them stave off some of the bullying. You know, you can't necessarily stop all of it, but you can sort of buffer yourself against it.
And when we learn, like Gloria had to learn, I'm sure in the book, Gloria had to learn that it's okay to be different, that we're all different. Because if we're all the same, just think how boring our world would be. But it's okay to be different. And when we embrace our differences, that is the biggest empowerment that we can give ourselves. Would that be true?
That would be true, absolutely. Yeah, it's really important to accept ourselves exactly how we are. And that's very difficult, especially for kids, because it's so important to them to feel like they fit in. And so if there's anything different or, you know, off from what they perceive as average or normal or like everybody else, then they take that to mean that they are not worth being loved or accepting themselves or other people accepting them. And that's not the truth. So that's a piece of something they have to work through.
And I have another author friend of mine. I absolutely adore her. And one of her sayings is, why fit in when we are made to stand out?
That's good.
And when you think about it, it's true. Why? And I can relate, because growing up, I never fit in. I wanted to fit in, but I didn't fit the mold, and it didn't dawn on me until I got older and wiser that I didn't fit in because I'm not made to fit in. I was a rebel as a child. I was, as my husband says, I was effervescent and a free spirit. And to tame me would be like trying to tame that unicorn. You would break my spirit. So even though as a child I thought I need to fit in because people think I'm strange, I am darn glad I'm strange.
Amen.
Yeah, it's nice. I am okay this way.
Yeah,
and
it is.
I am just so sorry that I did not have the self-confidence as a child to understand it is okay to be different, because by being different, and ladies and gentlemen, you need to teach your children this. If your children want to be different, what a beautiful thing. And I bring up the point, my two daughters are so unique. My oldest daughter, she didn't give two hoots about what people thought about her. She would go to school and she would wear 2 or 3 different pairs of socks, and what they would be different colors. And she would alternate them. If it was red, white, and blue on one leg, it'd be black, it would be white, red, or blue on the other, but they would not be uniform. And she didn't care what people thought, because she danced to her own drummer. She danced to her own band. The little girl, I designed her clothes, her and her sisters. And when she started school, I designed her these cute, cute, cute little one-piece, we called them clown suits. They were adorable. And she went to school one day, and she came back home crying. And I said, why are you crying? She was the little bitty, first, second grade. She said, because the kids in class made fun of me. I said, why'd they make fun of you? She says, because of what I'm wearing. I said, excuse me. I said, tomorrow when you wear one of your nice designed outfits, you know, specially designed. These were designed by me and made by me. When you wear one of those to school and one of those little girls say something to you, look at them in the eye and say, well, do you have a designer that designs your clothes? I do. She never had any more trouble.
Awesome.
Because she decided to march to her own, and I taught all of my children, whatever drummer you hear in your head, march to it. You don't have to conform, because when we get out in the world, due to corporate America, of course, we have to conform some, but be yourself, and it's okay.
Right. Well, I mean, too often our little selves get pushed in a little box as you're going along.
Yes,
and your creativity and your personality, it gets all squished, and you what makes you unique doesn't shine anymore,
Right.
And it takes a while if that's happened to you to kind of step out and take a chance at just being yourself and even figuring out who that really is. And that's a shame that you have to kind of figure out who you are and branch out. That should have been like you did, nurtured all along so that they just grow into who they really are and not
and are happy. And they're happy with who they are. I've spent my entire from the time I was 5 years old and through my informative years, my teenage years, my young adult years, wondering who the hell I was, because I had to be one person for somebody over here, then I had to be somebody else for somebody over here. And by the time it was all said and done, I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I said, who am I?
Yeah.
And then when I said that, I said, wait a minute. I can be whoever I want to be. It took me 30 years to figure out I could be whoever I wanted to be. And I was angry all the time. And this is something else adults don't understand. Teachers don't understand. They wonder why children are angry all the time. I was angry one day. I mean, angry all the time. Couldn't figure it out. And it was because I couldn't be me.
Yes. Yeah.
So God loved Gloria and the little unicorn. Because she can be her, and it's okay to be her. So
right, absolutely.
If there's any teachers out there, please, 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 if you have children that want to be creative or you have children that don't have a box they think out of, encourage that, because I'm going to tell you, when that child gets older and gets out in the real world, they're going to look back and think you were the best teacher they ever had. Am I right, Wanda?
You are absolutely right. Yep. You will make a huge difference.
I can tell you on one hand the teachers I remember in school and the impact they had on me, and it was all positive. And one of them was my French teacher. He taught me French for 3 years. He was a World War II prisoner of war survivor. And that man he loved French. He loved the language. He loved the people, because that's where he was stationed before he was captured. And he let me be me.
That is awesome.
I never forgot that man. And the man is in his 90s and is still alive today.
Wow, that's cool.
So,
that's amazing.
Now, real quick, because in a little bit we're going to be running out of time. We're talking about our wonderful future and our children. You also did a book called, let me find it, it's about the little girl, the Lilac Princess.
Yes.
Tell us about that one, because this is an interesting little book, too. Ladies and gentlemen, right quick, it is a modern-day fairy tale of a young princess with too much responsibility and not enough freedom. She is an only child to an elderly king and queen of a kingdom in turmoil. Upon her rests the responsibility to rescue her kingdom one day, but for now she is held within the castle for her safety. Tell us about this book, because I am sure that there's some parents that, for whatever reason, want to overprotect their children. You know, he can't eat dirt. He can't go out and play and get dirty. I have to give him a bath every 15 minutes. He can't wallow around in the floor. He can't pet the dog. That, to me, that's foolish. Kids need to get dirty. So tell us about the Lilac Princess.
So the Lilac Princess, this story was one that the whole story just came to me, like all at once. And I just started writing it. It was just coming faster than I could write it all out. And so the Lilac Princess, she is inside the castle and sees these beautiful lilacs growing outside, and she's not allowed to go out there and visit them. The villagers outside the castle come in and sell their wares and stuff and bring some lilacs in, and that's how she gets to experience them. But she really longs to go out there amongst them growing. And so she's not allowed to go outside because there are wars going on, and it would be, not safe, and they have to protect her so she can grow up and take over the kingdom, which is all understandable, but still, her desire is there. So she winds up sneaking out, of course, and she meets this dragon who at first seems friendly, so he, makes friendship with her, but then he's actually not friendly, and he winds up capturing her. And so the parents' worst fear comes to life. And, that's sort of where the whole adventure begins and what the rest of the story is about. But with the Lilac Princess, her name is Dreama, what she learns and all is, she, of course, befriends one of the villagers, so there's friendship. And she has to stand up for what she believes in dealing with this horrible, dangerous dragon. And ultimately, it's about forgiveness because she realizes, she's done something wrong. She did something that her parents asked her not to do, and then the very thing they said would happen did. And so, she needs to ask for forgiveness. And so it's just a many layers to it, but a good little story. It's a great adventure and magical and things that would entertain children. But there are some really good messages that underline all of that in the story.
And it takes us back to responsibility, forgiveness, standing up for what one believes in. That, again, brings up the bully pulpit. We should not be afraid to stand up for what we believe or stand up for someone who may believe something different than we do. We should be willing to stand by them and say, it's okay for you to disagree, but you're not going to browbeat or beat someone down because they don't believe what you believe, whether it's a difference of opinion or whether it's a faith or whatever. We have to teach our children how to have courage to do all of those things. Would that be a true statement?
That would be very true. It takes a lot of courage to sort of reach across those differences and understand that people are different and that it is okay to be different, and you can actually be friends and embrace each other even though you might have very different beliefs or lifestyles or whatever. But, it's fear that keeps us from doing that, and we do have to really encourage our children to have that courage to, interact and embrace those people that are different from us, because we will learn so much from people that are different from us, much more than we will learn from people who are similar to us.
Very true. And people don't understand that. Okay, let's put this in perspective. When you have two Democrats or two Republicans or two Southern Baptists talking, you're not going to have much of a debate because they're going to agree on just about everything, talking to each other. But when you add another dimension, the things one learns, even if you disagree and agree to disagree, you open your mind up and you let these different ideas and thoughts mesh and gel, and you're going to find more times than not that you may have more common ground than you thought.
I completely agree. I think, when you talk to somebody who has a very different perspective, it can open your mind and just really hear and see something that maybe you never thought of. And that's important. It's important to have those different perspectives, or else it's like you only see one part of the elephant. Have you heard that analysis?
Yes.
Yes. Looking at the foot, and you're talking about the foot, and somebody's looking at the trunk, talking about the trunk, but really in reality you're talking about the same animal. And
exactly.
So, you're absolutely right that sometimes once you start talking, you realize some grounds where you actually do agree and you meet on, and it's not quite as, opposite or whatever as you have in your mind built it up to be.
And if we go back to that fear thing, and the anagram that I was taught a long time ago, the anagram for fear is false evidence that appears real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that many of us have this false assumption that if we dare have a dialogue with someone that thinks different from us, I don't care if it's from rearing children to politics and all in between, if we dare have a dialogue where we're on opposite sides of the fence, they might, let's not say it out loud, they might convert us. And we're
right.
too narrow-minded to be converted. We don't want to be converted because we're comfortable over here in our little box, and we don't know. We can't have that. That's so foolish. It's so foolish.
Yeah. We need to be. Change is difficult, and we need to be willing to embrace change and not be afraid of it. And yes, when you're talking to people who have different perspectives, it is more than likely going to cause some change in you. It may not completely convert you to the opposite view, although it could, but, it will definitely change you. And we need to be open to that and embrace that.
And we need to teach our children that it's okay to have different thoughts, to have different dialogues, and to understand, there's that C word again, that the only thing that is constant, ladies and gentlemen, is change. Nothing, even a river or a creek, even the ocean, does not stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't believe me, go watch the flow of the river. That river will never, that one drop of water that you see floating down the river, it will never come that way again, right? Because it's changed, constant.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good visual.
So I know, ladies and gentlemen, y'all thought y'all were just going to get children's books and all sweet and sappy and syrupy. Y'all know better. This is off the chain.
That's right.
Now, real quick, before we run out of time, your other book, The Little Bird.
Little Birdie Grows Up.
Little Birdie Grows Up. Tell the folks real quick where that one came from.
So that one is a picture book. So that one's actually 0 to 5 age group. The other ones are chapter books for more 7 to 11 age. And so Little Birdie Grows Up was inspired by my daughter going off to college. I did have empty nest syndrome. I was very close to her, and it was very hard to send her off to school, even though she's, a good girl and fully capable, but it was just hard for me. And so this little book was inspired by that whole life journey where, you have a child and they, how little kids, they want to grow up and they want to be big. And that's Little Birdie's dream. And, you want them to grow up and do that. That's your goal too, but still in the end, it's a little sad to tell them goodbye, but it's not awful. It's good. That's what you want. That's successful. So anyway, Little Birdie Grows Up is a cute little picture rhyming book about a little bird who comes out of his shell and longs to fly, and about really kind of perseverance, how he perseveres till he's finally able to fly.
Yeah, because we certainly don't want our children living with us until they're 45.
Right.
No, I'm gonna tell you, when my children were little, I wanted to be Mama Bird, and at 6 weeks, toss them out of the net and say, "Fly, kids, fly, fly, go see the world." But of course, 6 weeks old, I would have been putting tails. I'd wait till they were 18. But I don't want a generation of children that don't know how to survive in the real world. I really don't. I want them to be self-sufficient, to be successful, to have self-esteem, to be proud of who they are, where they're going, how they're going to get there, and to be free-spirited, effervescent, and to throw away the damn box.
Yep. That's my belief, too. That's exactly what I want for our kids.
So would you believe our hour's almost up?
I can't believe it. That has flown by.
Our little birdie did fly. It did.
Our birdie did fly.
but the hour always flies by.
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about our future and our children. So real quick, tell the folks where you can be found.
So the books are all available on Amazon and actually Barnes & Noble, although Amazon has the ebook and audiobook as well as the paperbacks. And I am on Facebook at W. Luthman, facebook.com/W. Luthman, Luthman, or on my blog website is wandaluthman.wordpress.com.
And ladies and gentlemen, go check her out because she is absolutely magnificent. I adore this woman. She has the tenacity to write for children. And at one time, that was where I was headed when I was younger. But I don't have that, tenacity. Maybe I'm not able to think like a child. I don't think I ever was a child. I think I was born grown, never got over it. But, so anybody that can write for children and teenagers, God love them because they can impart so much to them. And I am just so grateful that Wanda has that wonderful, wonderful craft. So check her out. Tomorrow night, my friend and fellow author Andy Keller will be here. And we're going to talk about her books, and I'm going to read some of her poems from her book of poetry called Crenellations. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's been out for a while, and I thought I'm going to read some of these poems because they're absolutely magnificent. On Saturday night, Linda DeLeon will be here. She is an author. It's the first time that she has been on my show, and she was born in Louisiana. She's raised in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and now she lives in Dallas, but she's into all things vampires. So we will have, and she's an ER nurse. So Wanda, can you imagine that show? It's going to be fun. So ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, Ann Keller. Saturday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, Linda DeLeon. And you all know what I say at the end of the show because I believe these things with all of my heart. And one of those things is if you want to achieve greatness, please stop asking permission because nobody's going to give it to you. Because most people don't know how to go about getting greatness, nor do they want it. Nor do they want anybody else to have it because they're happy in their misery, and we all know misery loves company. So if you want to be great, stop asking permission. Just go do it. Don't just feel special. Be special. Don't say I feel special today. You say I am special today because you are, and don't ever forget it. Your smile is your logo. Your personality, ladies and gentlemen, is your business card. And how you leave others feeling after having had an experience with you, that is your trademark, and it becomes your trademark. And people may forget your face, they may forget your name, but I guarantee you that they will always remember how you treated them. And if you treat them with kindness, kindness will come back tenfold. If you treat them with ilk, oh, honey, I'm going to tell you, you will be visited by the ilk fairy, and it will not be pretty. So just remember that, because you don't know what burdens people are carrying around on their hearts, especially children. Be kind to the elderly, be kind to children, be kind to each other, but most of all, be kind to yourself, because when you're kind to yourself, and Wanda will back me up on this. When you're kind to yourself, it's so much easier to be kind to others. Isn't that right, Wanda?
Amen. That's exactly right.
So until tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen, my guest and I, the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful author, Wanda Luthman, who I adore, and I want to thank you for joining us, for making this show a success. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, she will be back in November. And to join us again tomorrow night as we once again do things that are always, as y'all know, on this show, anything happens, anything is talked about, and we may agree to disagree, but we still are civil and do discourse. So join us again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. I am your host, Yvonne Mason. This is Off the Chain, and you never, never know what you're going to hear or learn. So come and learn things with us. Wanda, thank you, my darling, for coming on the show again at short notice. You are wonderful.
Thank you, Yvonne. It was great to be here.
You are so welcome. So until tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Wanda and I, Yvonne Mason, say good night.
Good night.
Okay, so you know what I'm going to do. It's going to go up in archives, and then I'm going to tag you in the link, and then tomorrow I'll put the shows up on all the 5 podcasts, and I'll tag you and spread it around, my darling.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thank you so much. You're so wonderful.
Well, you are so welcome, and to be able to teach parents and adults how to love children and how to like children with you is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to do it. It's very fulfilling.
So you'll have some, and we didn't even talk about, get around to the books that are coming back in December. I guess we'll do that in November when you come back.
In November, yeah. Yeah, that'll be awesome. All
right, sweetheart, and I will get all this up, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, honey. Good night.
Good night.